before we jump into this, I want to share a little bit about myself to kind of segue into this presentation. Because when we're going into these new types of environments, or we're trying to do something new, especially in the OT space, it all comes down, your understanding of it all comes down from your experiences and where you've been in your life. So, a little bit about myself. I have over a decade of experience in IT, and I switched to the OT space about 4 years ago. I'm based in southern Switzerland, but before that I lived in San Francisco, California, and I worked for Apple, Twitter, and some startups, some smaller startups. What that taught me in IT, in those companies, was fundamental to understanding how I conceptualize the environments that we go into today. And what do I mean by that? So I've worked at very small companies and one of the largest companies on the planet. And what I saw in both of those was what it looks like when your security is essentially perfect and when you're a startup and the pains that you go through. So I first was at Apple and I had the mindset, this was right out of university, okay, every company's like this, right? They're all thinking about security, they all understand this stuff. And then I get into a startup and I'm kind of in charge of making sure that our desktop and laptop feed is secure, and I would go to my management and say, hey, we need to have this secure. Yeah, we don't have the money for that. But we need the security. Yeah, that's not our thing. Okay, so we kind of had to improvise and move on, and over time, we started to see the pain points, and then from there I went to Twitter, and there it was back to security is implemented and they understand it, and you have to go back and forth, and it's kind of seeing what the potential threats are, hopefully before they ever happen, to realize that, hey, we need to act on something, right? And we need to implement certain things to prevent the worst from happening. So today, first I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what we see in manufacturing, and then I'm going to introduce Nozomi a little bit and some stuff about our products. So this was very interesting to me. When I was creating these slides, I was looking at one of our older slides, and this same report in 2019 stated that manufacturing was the 8th most attacked sector. Now it's #1. Well, why is that, right? So manufacturers usually have a very low resilience for downtime. Hackers, cyber criminals know you guys don't want your manufacturing processes to stop, so you'll give us money. Right? So it's for them, it's advantageous, and for you, it's not. And who's doing that, right? Their manufacturers are increasingly targeted by Google, right? So it can be even internal stuff, external attackers, sometimes even competitors, governments, right? And what are they trying to do? Most of the time, financial gain or discredit the manufacturer as a whole. But this, to me, was very alarming, right? And extortion is the key here. So how can we start these companies to gain some sort of something out of them? And this is expected to just get worse and worse year over year over year. Why is this sector so challenging? So when I switched out of pure IT to kind of the OT field, I started to get interested in security, and I saw this thing called OT cybersecurity, and I said, oh, that seems fun. And then I discovered Nozomi and applied for a job, and from there it's kind of been, the rest has been a nice story working for them. However, why do we have these challenges? OT environments traditionally were air-gapped, right? There wasn't much entry from the outside world. And when we go and we speak with our customers, that's the first thing they say, oh, no, our networks have we're air-gapped, there's nothing in there, right? Well, with the introduction of Industry 4.0, right? Digitalization, IOT, this is kind of the gateway into these networks, and this is what our customers are starting to see is, hey, we need to start thinking seriously about this, because IoT in general is fantastic, right? Especially for manufacturing. It will speed up manufacturing times, it makes your life easier. However, there's a couple risks with that, right? Built-in IoT devices, their security are minimal. They're lightweight, they don't have a lot of the other features that more robust assets have. Once deployed, most IoT devices are really outdated. I think if you put an IoT device in your house and you plug it in, are you going there checking every day? I don't know if it doesn't. usually not. You have it in, you do your function, and you kind of forget about it. They also have usually weak identity and access control measures. So use of default passwords, lack of strong authentication, some of them don't have two-factor authentication, things like that. And you have the inability to install agent-based software on them. So in an IT environment, we have no problem going in and installing an agent on the Windows, Mac, Linux machine. But a lot of these IoT devices don't have that ability, right? They're small hard drives, low processors, so they just kind of are installed and left. And therefore, these connected IoT devices, environments then serve as access points to these OT environments. And these are put side by side with business applications, data centers, IT infrastructures, cloud-based solutions, right? All within OT cybersecurity, OT facilities. These then these deployments, these larger deployments become much harder to segment, right? So they usually don't have network segmentation. You can have an IoT device in a critical infrastructure without having it segmented it off from the rest of the time. And why is that? Well, the biggest problem we face today, unfortunately, is humans. And I don't mean that in a bad way, and I don't mean that as humans being malicious. But normally, we don't know what we don't know, right? So the reason I brought up my experiences of working in a very big company and a very, very small company, like when you usually are starting a company, if it's your first company, and you get successful, this is what I saw with a number of co-founders I was working with at startups in Silicon Valley. They were great. So one of them was a fintech company, and they were great at understanding the financial technical aspects, but they didn't understand the security aspects. But they didn't know about it. So what they don't know, and then you have some young kid out of college that's hiring and I'm saying, hey, we need to look at these things, otherwise just, well, let's see what happens, right? So humans, we all make mistakes, one thing, and then also when you have smaller companies getting into larger companies, things like this, over time, all of your companies are small at one point, right? So as they were growing, you had people come in, you had process changes, you had things installed, people didn't document certain things, they left certain things. You have one thing that I find a lot of times now with our customers is we have OT and I teams, now IT teams having to work together, right? So the IT team doesn't really understand what the OT team is having to do and vice versa. Or, hey, budgets were cut, OT team left, IT team, you need to take over this. In our solution, here's the user manual, we're not going to train you, you kind of have to figure it out on your own. These kind of things all leaves potential gaps in security and lack of knowledge. Which also, we've also seen then where people on OT sites will just go and put kind of rogue IoT devices, not being malicious, just meaning, hey, me installing this thing here, this will make my life easier, this will make the process easier, let's install this. But the IT teams, the cybersecurity teams, they have no idea that this was installed. So all of these things, and as the companies get bigger, they all leave tiny little gaps inside of the networks, and these can cause problems over time. So, how does this pertain to manufacturing, right? Well, legacy manufacturing devices were built for reliability to stand the test of time, but they weren't built for security. Network segmentation and zero trust have been very slow to come to manufacturing, and the inherent characteristics of these devices make cybersecurity very challenging in these sorts of this industry. It takes substantive industry expertise and knowledge to confront these issues, to solve these issues. But as I said, digital transformation, IoT, the implementation thing is great. However, the expanded cyber attack surface is not. And here's kind of some things we've seen on how to tackle it, right? The biggest piece, and I don't speak Slovenian, but I think Peter was referring to this, the biggest thing that I can say without a doubt, the number one thing that Nozomi will constantly talk about is visibility. You have to see what's going on in your network. If you can't see what's going on in your network, how can you detect anything, right? And as I said, with the lifeline companies, right? Let's say you started 20 years ago and you had multiple people coming and going, and multiple things installed. It's very hard for one person to know everything. Unless you're meticulous and you document everything, it's very hard for one person to come in and say, I know everything in the network, I know what every firmware version of every single thing is, I know what appliances are talking to what. It's very hard to do, right? So visibility is key. Once you have visibility, you can ensure that, especially in manufacturing, that your manufacturing lines are continuously running, right? We have no downtime. What we talk about in Nozomi is our product isn't only for anomaly detection. It's also to ensure that your devices are working and used properly, right? It could just be that a device went offline and stopped working, and it happens. But we also offer the other side of it, where we can see if there's some sort of malicious aspect to it. So it's essential in a lot of these verticals, right, to integrate IoT, OT, and IT security efforts with skilled individuals who know how to implement them. These people challenge assumptions constantly. The best people that I've seen in this industry assume they've already been attacked, always. So if you think that you're not going to be attacked, just pretend you were attacked and go from there. Because it's not a matter of if, it's usually a matter of when. And it's kind of outside, out of mind. As humans, we don't like to think about it, right? But put yourself in that shoes, like what would happen today if my organization experienced downtime, especially the manufacturing process, right? It's not only financial loss, but it's also the reputational loss. And what do I mean by that? Let's say that you are a process manufacturer and you're producing goods for another manufacturer, right? I get attacked. I haven't implemented I haven't implemented proper security measures. My site goes down. All of our vendors, all of the customers who work with us, well, our business is hurt now. I can't get this because this person had this other company had this issue, right? So it's a chain of events, and if it happens multiple times, it's like, well, we don't really want to work with that vendor anymore, right? We don't want to work with that manufacturer because they're not able to prevent these things from happening, right? So always challenge assumptions. We've already been attacked, right? The most successful security teams perform regular offensive testing, red team, blue team, penetration testing, and so forth. And once they have all of this, they continuously apply best practices, right? And have the incident response plans in place to know that if this environment is attacked, how can we then move forward? That is a very big number. This was a real attack. I like to use this one. This actually happened in 2016, so some years ago. But this company, Recommend Kaiser, had a ransomware not picked yet, and they lost 117 million of downtime. Now, we work with tons of customers who tell us if we were to go down, we would lose X amount of money for 10 minutes. We had a company, we have a customer in Saudi Arabia who did the math. Thankfully, this never happened, but they calculated that they would lose $1 million every 10 minutes if they went offline. So think about it. Implementing security practices, $10 million in 10 minutes. Like the cost it's not justifiable, but it's hard to put that put your mind into that. So I think too, it's in an organization also, it's a fantastic exercise to do the math to see what will we actually lose? What will be the cost of financially? What would be the cost of, could also be something security-wise, right? So we've had other customers in the oil industry that have said if this were to happen, water supplies would be affected, people would get sick. So it's not only money, it can be lives, it can be a lot of scary things that we don't want to happen, right? And it was because of this that our co-founders sought to create a product like Nozomi. So just a little bit about Nozomi. We were founded in 2013 in Europe by two industrial cybersecurity and artificial intelligence experts, I would call them today. At the time, they were kind of right out of university and had all these ideas on how we could implement this. They saw the need for it. And as with starting any company, they got a lot of no's, right? They went around. It wasn't because the product wasn't good. It was because at the time the market was saying, OT is closed off. We don't need this. This isn't needed, right? They went to the global energy producer in Italy, and they saw the value of this. They said, wow. They plugged in the Nozomi product, and they were able to see their whole network and the visualization key popped into their head. And that's what all of our products are built upon. And after that, after 3 years, they were able to grow the company quite large. And from there, they moved the headquarters to the United States. So we have 2 headquarters, one in Angelotti, Switzerland, where the company was originally founded, and our global headquarters is now in San Francisco. We have 11 other offices around the world, and we're continuing to grow. And we don't only consider those offices our main offices, because we work with fantastic partners like SmartCom and like others throughout the world that help us get into local markets. People like SmartCom will understand the local language, will understand the local cultures and business protocols, right? So our partners are our lifeblood. We love working with them and we love growing with them. We've also continued to train people. So we have over 2,000 certified Nozomi engineers worldwide, and that number is growing year over year of people who are interested in learning our product and how to implement it into their ecosystem. So, what I want to show here, this is the timeline of kind of when Nozomi was created. We had our 10-year anniversary this year. These are all of our products that we've come out. I don't want to spend too long on this slide. What I want to kind of highlight here is all of this centers around one big piece, visibility. And I'm going to keep bringing that up over and over and over. Our thing that we pitch, our thing that we love to show is visibility constantly. Because you don't know what you don't know and you can't react on what you can't see. And that's critical, right? So, who buys Nozomi and what are the problems that we solve, right? So, C, visibility, detection, and scalability. These are the big ones for us. So, what do I mean by visibility? I mean the devices that are inside of your network and that are speaking to each other, and how are they speaking? What protocols are they using to speak? And not only that, with our product, are you seeing some on the device that you have no idea of how it got installed? And is it talking to something in your network, right? Being able to see. Then we're able to detect, and from that, we're able to scale. So a lot of times we start off on smaller deployments with customers and grow larger over time. When we do proof of concepts, right, we offer these for free because we want our customers to see what the value is before they install it. We understand that in OT, it's not as simple as in IT. When I worked in IT, I could just walk into the server room and unplug something. But when you work in OT, you can't say, oh, go shut this process down, and plug all these things in, right? So that's the big piece. The visibility, then the detection, and scalability. So in our solutions portfolio, you can see a number of things here. We actually have 2 big ones. So Vantage and Guardian are our 2 primary, our primary products. Guardian, I would say, is the life force of Nozomi. Guardian is the actual physical sensors. It can also be a virtual machine or container that is put into the network and analyzes the traffic. Now, we are a completely passive solution. We don't expect anything installed on any other computers, completely passive. So we have the ability with SPAN ports and things like that, our SPAN, to simply put our device in and we mirror the traffic, it goes to our product, and we will be able to see kind of what's going on with the network. From there, all of that information is sent up to Vantage, which is our software as a solution platform. We offer other options as well. We have a thing called a remote collector. Think of it as a mini Guardian. It goes into hard to reach places. Think of an oil platform in the middle of the ocean, right? Tiny, tiny places where it's very hard to pick where a Guardian doesn't make sense. And then on top of that, we offer extended functionality with threat intelligence, asset intelligence, and smart homing. Threat intelligence is one thing that I really want to highlight here. So we update this 2 or 3 times a week. And this is automatically, if you're connected to our optical service, we automatically update this. So you're constantly getting real updates to the most common sticks indicators, YAR rules, packet rules, YAR rules, and sticks indicators. And we also curate our own signatures as well. So you're detected, so you're able to detect an anomaly in real time. We offer certified engineer training, professional services, and 24/7 customer support. We understand that things can happen Christmas Day at noon, right? So we have someone online 24/7. So I briefly mentioned Vantage, and what is Vantage? This isn't regarding the scalability aspect that I spoke to about a minute ago, right? So we want it to be easy for our customers to scale. So if you have two Guardians, and later I'll be doing a demo so you guys can see kind of what I mean by this, right? Slides are great. I think it's much easier if you can see it and visualize it and kind of understand what it would be like if you were using it yourself. But if you have multiple installations, let's say some of our customers have 500 Guardians spread throughout the world, who's going to log in one by one and check each single one of them? You know? So this is a software solution that we offer in the cloud. We provide all the resources, we provide all the security updates, and you are able to see all of your installations in real time in one space, right? So you can monitor any number of devices, protecting any number of locations from one application worldwide. And now we'll talk to you about Guardian. So as I said, Guardian is our hardware sensor that is installed into the network. So Guardian will receive all of the traffic, analyze the traffic, and send it to Vantage. It has two different motors that kind of run it, right? So a behavioral-based and an anomaly-based. So what do I mean by behavioral-based? So one thing that I can show later is we have the ability, so let's talk about, we call them variables in our solution. So we are able to detect every single process inside of an industrial site. So for example, let's say a pressure valve on something electric, right? Some sort of pressure that's going up and down. We can detect we can measure the actual detection, and we memorize how often it happens. So let's say it happens every 68 milliseconds, right? We've seen with our customers that we are able to measure this in a much narrower range than most gas systems, which is great for two things. One, it can tell you, hey, we will alert you if this measurement goes way out of balance. So we know for 6 months that it's constantly, every 68 seconds does this one thing, and then all of a sudden today it took 1 minute to do this. Something's up, right? And now it's doing it every 1 minute. So we can say, this appliance may be broken, or there's some sort of attack going on. But you can see that kind of in real time, and I can show that to you guys later. So that's the behavioral aspect, and then we have the threat-based signatures. So like I mentioned earlier, packet rules, yellow rules, sticks indicators, and our own curated signatures that we provide as well. What does this allow, right? So with all of this point advantage, this allows you to act very fast. Visibility aspect of it, you're able to kind of hone in on what you really want to see and be alerted. So if there is an attack that happens, you're able to respond in a matter of time that prevents the worst from happening, right? Or mitigates at least some of the scale and how bad it could be. And then scaling it. So what I'm going to show here is, so this is what it would look like based off of the Purdue model. I assume you were talking about the Purdue model. I don't speak Slovenian, but I assume he was going over the Purdue model, right? So this is what it looks like with one of our Guardians inside of a sample architecture, right? And what I say by the scaling of this, right? Let's say that you have 10 different plants just like this. You start with one. I'm going to use so up here is Vantage, and all of these Guardians are pointing up to Vantage. This is a remote collector, so one of the smaller Guardians. Maybe there's only a few devices, let's say a few PLCs that want to be on the monitor here, and it makes sense to put a Guardian. All of these point up and go up to Vantage. You can set all the configurations for all the Guardians on Vantage, and Vantage will then push it all down. So what I mean by scaling is, let's say you want to implement this in 5 other plants, you plug in the Guardians, connect them to Vantage, and Vantage will just automatically configure all of the preset configurations that you had made previously. So we want to make it as simple as possible, right? We want to make the scaling as simple as possible to give you the visibility that you need.